What is up, team? Welcome back to the Red Storm Rap Reaction Podcast. I'm Pat Kane. That's Cole. That's Shaw. St. John's moves to 13-5 yesterday after I don't know if you'd call it a throttling, but they took control early and were able to keep Nova at bay for the most part. A 17-point lead, got as close as five late, but St. John's was able to make the plays necessary to get a comfortable win on the road. Cole was there, Philly's finest, there to see it in person. Cole, your thoughts?
You don't want to use the word throttling. I'll use the word throttling. I think the final score isn't indicative of how well St. John's played in the second half. Obviously, you let them cut it to five. The home crowd got a little loud there, but they were able then to step on their throats and quiet the crowd. I thought you had the best performance of Ian Jackson in a St. John's uniform. We talked about it in our last podcast, but he's not settling to just be a jump shooter out there. He's taking the ball to the rim, and I think that opens up your offense to do so many other things. I thought you had Bryce Hopkins' best game since Las Vegas. He looked way more aggressive out there. He's completely taking over the game. Rick is really leaning into our triple towers lineup. You had Dillon Mitchell, Bryce, and Zuby. I think all three of them were over 36 minutes. God forbid you get in foul trouble or anything like that, or the guys start getting gassed, you have a really good backup big in Ruben. But I love those three guys getting that many minutes and being out on the court. Dillon Mitchell had a great game, double-double with 10 points, 10 rebounds. All in all, just an awesome performance. And most importantly, we've talked about being concerned about what type of resume St. John's could put in, not having a real quality out-of-conference win. You get a quad 1A win at Villanova. Now we become the biggest Villanova fans and just hope that they can keep taking care of business the rest of the way. But it's a real solid road win. So couldn't be happier.
Yeah, St. John's wants Villanova to do well. The Big East wants Villanova to do well. They're the right now, not to diminish Seton Hall, but we saw them lose once already this week. And is their resume as good as a top 25 team? I'm not sure. They don't really have a quality win outside of a decent NC State victory. But if they were to, even out in Big East play, I'm not sure how uh their NCAA resume will look. I think Nova has a better chance come March to be that third, hopefully fourth team Big East is talking about, but right now it looks like they're probably third. I'm curious, Cole, you were close to front row seats yesterday. Could you see a size difference, up close and personal with St. John's triple tower lineup?
Bryce is just such a physical specimen. I don't know if that comes through the television screen, but he is an absolute load out there. Obviously, Zuby looks humongous. Villanova just didn't have any answers for those three guys out there on the court at the same time. They did not have the size to match up with us. And Dillon Mitchell just continues to impress. The way he's able to impact the game in all aspects is I cannot. We knew coming into the season that we were excited for him, but I just literally rave about him. I enjoy watching him out there on the court so much.
Yeah, always involved in the action, not necessarily scoring points, but grabbing rebounds, pushing in transition. He guarded Lindsay. He guarded Lewis. He was able to switch around pretty much any of those perimeter guys that Nova might think they'd have a quickness advantage on. And we were able to nullify that and then take advantage of our size advantage on the other end. 10 points, 10 rebounds. Zuby as well, another great game from Zuby, chipping in all different ways. And then like you said, you can't talk about this game without raving about Ian Jackson, his performance. I gotta say, I'm not sure how intently you were watching the first 60 seconds of this game, Call, if you're still coming back from the concession stand. But that first 55 seconds were pretty scary for Ian Jackson. He had a turnover against the pressure where he looked like he
Mm-hmm.
wanted nothing to do with the basketball. Then he gets beat for a layup. And then he falls down on the next end, and it ends up leading to a backdoor dunk and one for him. The basketball equivalent of the Statue of Liberty play right there. And whatever it was got him going. Couple really fluid takes to the rim, finishing through traffic. When he was comfortable and steady and not off the floor for whatever reason, he did end up getting a technical foul in the first half, part of a double T, which sent him to the bench early. But whenever he was out there, he looked really comfortable. That was the calmest, coolest, and it helps when the shots are falling. We've seen him look, and you have to wonder if something's clicked or maybe he just, had a good game. But it seems to be he's obviously clearly headed in the right direction.
Oh yeah, I was glued to my seats right from opening tip, and my head was in my hands when Ian Jackson started a little sketchy. I was screaming that we don't have a point guard in our roster. But I think then he got that real early dunk, the and one, which might have been our first points of the
It
game when
was.
we were
Yep.
down 4-0. And he just looked super confident the rest of the game. I mean, we know what a great 3-point shooter he was, and he only shot 1 for 4 from 3 yesterday. But the onions, when Villanova was making a little bit of a run there, I think we were down 10 at the time, to take that step back 3-pointer and just put it in when he was 0 for 3 at that point. Just a unbelievable performance by him. And you just hope his confidence continues to grow, and we can get this type of performance every time. But like I said before, him putting the ball on the ground and taking it to the rim, I mean, that opens up the offense so much doing that. And he's so good on the dribble, and his ability to finish around the rim is tremendous. So, really hope that his confidence continues to grow, and to put up those type of numbers that he did in only 23 minutes yesterday,
Yeah.
sky's the limit.
And people are still clamoring for more minutes. Rick is going to keep him on that tight leash. Maybe we're seeing why he's getting through to him. I'm going to keep trusting the Hall of Famer there. We'll continue talking about the backcourt. His starting partner yesterday was Isaiah Sellers. Had a really quiet first half. Finished the first half with no points, no assists. Um, Missed a few open looks. Other than that, was pretty much invisible out there, and he played the majority of the first half. Second half was a different story. Finally got a few to drop, hit a couple threes, couple mid-rangers, and was able to combat some of that shooting rush that Villanova was going to have. And you knew that was going to come at some point. So a little bit of a lopsided game for Uzziah, second half being much stronger than the first, but he was there when we needed him to make plays. And then maybe even more importantly, Joe Sansanin, who's been the latest guy who seems to be creeping into Rick's doghouse, been losing minutes seemingly more and more these last few games. Hit a couple really big threes late. One in particular, he gave to the Villanova section.
Loved
Cut it.
it.
Yeah,
Loved it.
battled a couple back-to-back threes by Nova, helped us keep them at bay. So it was good to see Joe San. You heard Rick speak glowingly about him and how he's never lost confidence. He thinks it's just something he's eventually going to get out of. Um, and when it does, like we've seen as guys have gotten better, pretty much each year with Rick, we saw Dingle take a step late, and people wanted it to happen earlier. It didn't, but as the season progressed, you saw him getting more comfortable and comfortable. We saw Kadari last season obviously improve as the season went on, as he got more comfortable. Maybe we'll see similar stuff with Joe San as we're seeing, lately with Ian Jackson.
Yeah, Patino had some great comments in the post-game press conference on Josan. He said he's maybe the most physically talented young man on the team. He's a great basketball player. He just hasn't shown it yet, but he will. We talked in our last podcast about his confidence. He, like you mentioned, kind of seemingly falling into the doghouse a little bit. Obviously, Rick's leaning more into the Triple Towers lineup. Uzziah is going to keep starting. Josan comes into a bench role. Minutes seem to be decreasing a little bit. But still, we just talked about Ian Jackson's onions, the onions on Josan to take that three and make it when he's sort of been, having a little bit more quiet games these last couple games, and to shush the crowd. I was screaming my head off when I saw him do that. I loved it.
So he wasn't shushing you though.
No, he might have been shushing me. I mean, I had a few beverages in me, so I was might have been a little obnoxious at times. But the Villanova faithful and their Patagonia sweaters, like, they deserve to hear me yapping it up the whole game. So screw
Any
them.
any comments on the price of a 16-ounce draft down in Wells Fargo?
We got Surfside cocktails that in essence a
Like a
seltzer water
Surfside.
with
Yeah.
stateside vodka. Was a double, so 24-ounce was $32 in the
Sounds
Wells
about right.
Fargo arena. Yeah, it was. I mean, those prices might not shock you guys in New York, but for me in Pennsylvania and the Philly Burbs, that one hurt a little bit. So
Well, thankfully, St. John's made it taste all the sweeter, so no harm there. Let's take a look at the box score real quick. St. John's, a 7-point victory on the road, up by as many as 17. Villanova cut it to as little as 5. Hit some threes late. There was times I thought, Cole, I'm thinking of one possession in the second half in particular that ended with a Zuby three of a jump shot. Zuby blocked a jump shot, I'm sorry. And it was a possession that included multiple switches, multiple closeouts. If you closed your eyes and just squinted at the TV, I think you could have saw last year's St. John's defensive team for sections of that second half, especially with those three bigs out there, their ability to cover up other guys' mistakes, cover ground on those closeouts, and then get back and rebound. Yes, Nova did get some easy looks as the half went on. Got to narrow that down, obviously, but I think it was a big step in the right direction in an improved competitive opponent, as opposed to these last three games where you're really questioning whether it was St. John's getting better or their opponents are getting worse. Nova's proven to be a quality team this season, so to beat them by 7 on their home court and to do it defensively in the second half, I thought was a really good sign.
Yeah. We mentioned earlier Rick's leaning heavier into the Triple Towers lineup, having all those guys starting together, playing, 35 for Dillon, 36 for Bryce, 37 for Zuby. God forbid foul trouble. Like, we're comfortable with Ruben play. He's a great fourth big to have coming off the bench. But we've talked earlier in the season about these guys are playing a lot on the court together at the same time, but we're still getting beat on the offensive glass with other teams getting too many offensive rebounds, too many second chance points. That now is starting to not become a thing. I thought Dillon was insanely aggressive rebounding. Bryce Hopkins, 3 offensive rebounds, 3 defensive rebounds. He was really aggressive on the glass. Villanova, you hold them to only 7 offensive rebounds. I think that's the key to success for this St. John's game. If they can limit their opponents' second chance, third chance opportunities, that is where they're going to make their bread. And I think we are a very hard team to face and a really hard team to match up with when you've got all that height and they're dominating you on the boards.
Yeah, we've been banging that drum for a while. I know that was a big part of our message when we first met with Jaden Daly earlier this year before the Vegas trip was, can St. John's keep these teams off the boards? And it seems simple enough, right? Obviously, you want to limit second chances, but even bigger for St. John's is what it leads to on the offensive end when you can get out and run off those rebounds and have these forwards, whether it's Mitchell or Hopkins or Jackson, just rake and take and go full court and put teams in transition defense situations where they're not going to be able to recover as quickly as if they were in a half court set. So it's twofold. It's improving by leaps and bounds. We'll see if that holds up, especially the big question mark will be when we see UConn. But Seton Hall is a tough and rugged team. They like to get in the offensive boards. They like to be physical. So it's a good physical challenge going up Tuesday against a team who's going to be hungry now coming off a loss.
And I don't know that, we can expect to have those 3 guys, averaging 36 minutes a game from your front court. That's probably not realistic. You think Ruben probably gets some more minutes in a normal game. But you see Rick really starting to shorten his bench. I mean, you essentially really only have 8 guys playing yesterday, with Lefty only playing a minute and Ruben only playing 3 minutes. Deku, I thought, gave you 8 solid minutes, hit a couple nice big jump shots.
Yeah.
Dylan Darling didn't really do much from the scoring department, but I mean, was creating for others, had a couple nice assists. And we talked before about Josan hitting a couple real big threes. I like what Rick's starting to do, starting to shorten his rotation here as we start to get into the second half of the season. Again, if you can limit offensive rebounds from your opponent, if you can turn them over. I think Villanova had 14 turnovers. Caden Lewis, everybody was talking big about him coming into the game. He only had 3 points, 5 assists and 6 turnovers. I mean, They did a great job on him, made him look like a rookie out there. So,
and that was multiple guys too. Darling did a good job with a few minutes guarding him. Mitchell switched on to him a few times. Jackson did a really good job guarding him when he was in there. I think improvement defensively across the board. One thing that I think is evident, you see Mitchell, Zuby, and Hopkins, like you said, all above 35 minutes. Definitely the most we've seen in one game with those guys with the overlap of minutes. And you can start to see their familiarity with each other on the court. Less crowded spaces in the paint. Uh, in my opinion, these last 3 games specifically, Creighton, Marquette, and Villanova, the half-court offense overall has looked drastically improved. We've seen much better action going towards the rim, getting more pick and roll actions on the weak side, having guys cut and having guys pinning down to get into more actions. I think those guys, other than Sannon, who maybe this is part of Rick's deal with him, is getting him into more of a groove offensively, like DQ, Darling, Ruben, those guys, when they come in the game, they're not standing still. They're going to move. They're going to set screens. They're going to cut. They're going to be part of the action when they don't have the basketball, and that helps the rest of the offense. Always look like it's working and it's making the defense, work hard for 30 seconds down in the court. Whereas I think early in the season there was a lot of standing around. Zuby top of the key, look, go high low. If it's not there, he kind of try to dribble in the traffic. Whereas now we're getting really targeted post ups,
Hmm.
weak side action. The irony of it is now that we're playing these three bigs, you'd think there'd be less space, but I find that Ozai is getting better looks playing with these three bigs than he was playing alongside three guard lineups. So
Yeah, you mentioned the familiarity with like the three bigs with them. We talked before about sort of a lot of spacing issues when they were all on the court together at the same time, the paint being clogged. I don't know if this is different game plans by Rick, but you see Dillon Mitchell finding himself a lot in that like dunker position, sort of below the block, and then you mentioned the high low action. I mean, these guys are able to find Mitchell in that, and he just can easily get up, elevate with his athleticism and throw one down. We used to call it the Ben Simmons spot on the court during his time in Philadelphia. He didn't have any offensive game outside of that ability to dunk the ball from right there. And Dillon Mitchell is tremendous when he gets the ball that close to the rim at finishing. I don't know, man. Like it's really exciting, and I love my big guys, so I love seeing them out on the court all that time together. It's Rick's starting to get this thing cooking, so let's put this
can
quad one win in our back pockets and keep stacking wins. Obviously, got a huge one against Seton Hall on Tuesday. Hopefully, MSG is jam packed, but I think I'm predicting some bad news coming for Seton Hall here in the next couple of days.
Can you say Ben Simmons in Philadelphia without getting accosted?
I think actually there was just a lightning strike right outside my window.
Before we switch off this box score, just another thing of note, Oziah Sellers, 0 turnovers again, played 30 minutes, only 1 assist, but it's still 1 turnover through 7 Big East games.
Mm-hmm.
So really taking care of the basketball, rock steady influence on the other guys out there. Um, Quality leadership. Every time he shoots it, I think it's going in. So continue to let it fly from three there, Oziah. Some comparative stats. You can see St. John's on the boards, 12 offensive boards for St. John's, only 7 for Villanova. So our string of keeping teams under 10 offensive rebounds is alive and well. Obviously, Villanova a little bit more than we saw Creighton and Butler, but a good number nonetheless, especially with what's his name, Hodges, their center
Mm-hmm.
in there is a bruiser. Really, really attacks the glass well.
Yeah, and I think that again, that's the key to victory for the St. John's team. If you can hold your opponents to only 7 offensive rebounds, I don't see this team losing a lot of games like that.
Uh-huh. Agreed. I didn't see. Did we get to the magic 15-3 number for those three wings? Let's see, 4 for Oziah, 4 for Jackson, 4 for Sand. So 12.
Close.
We'll take the 12. 4 for 12, 33%. If that's 5 for 15, I think we're happy. That's ironically what we were for the game overall. So the shooting will get there as the spacing continues to improve, as we continue to get more stops, more possessions. I think St. John's is very much headed in the right direction. Seton Hall coming up next. Cole's predicting bad news for the Pirates.
Ooh,
He's got no love for those guys.
nope.
That one's at the Garden. Am I right there?
At MSG, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
at MSG Tuesday night. I will be able to tune into that one. I think I'll be able to tune in that one live. So maybe we'll have something for you Tuesday night. No promises. We'll see what Cole's got in store. Cole, anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
Nah, I mean, yeah, like you said, no love lost for Seton Hall. Hopefully we blow the doors off that poverty program. But I think we got to continue to stack wins. We got to continue not to have bad losses. But if after that Providence win, if you would have told me, hey, you're going to go to Villanova, beat them on the road, you're going to beat Butler and Creighton in their own houses, and then you have a Seton Hall team who just a week ago was ranked in the top 25, and you get another win at MSG, I would have signed up for that despite the Providence loss. So, we root for Villanova the rest of the way, but if this holds as a quad 1A win, which I think is top 40 on the road,
Top 30.
Top 30.
Yep.
So, you hope Villanova stays in that top 30 number. But
Well, I'm sorry. No. If they're top 70 on the road, the top 30 at home. So this one's secure quad one. When we see him
quad
again,
one
that's
A,
yes.
that quad
Oh,
one
right.
A, I think
Yes.
it might be
Yep.
top top
Yep.
30 or top 40. But yeah, and we're the biggest Villanova fans the rest of the way. Hopefully they win every other game that's not at MSG. But that'll be a resume win come March. So we keep thinking about trying to make the best March Madness resume we can. You hope maybe we can fight our way back to being in that 5-4 seed conversation. And God forbid you get a couple wins against UConn, we could be talking a whole nother stratosphere. So go
Yeah.
Johnnies. Let's beat the Pirates by 60, and then we'll yap it up about it afterwards.
Before we leave, I think we might get our St. John's card revoked if we don't just spend a minute talking about Zuby Ejiofor for a second. I'm looking at his season stats here, Cole. It's been said he leads St. John's in all five categories. I mean, 16.2 points leads the team. 7.4 rebounds leads the team, 3.0 assists leads the team, 1.3 steals tied for the lead with the team, and 2.0 blocks leads the team. And looking right now, the 2.4 turnovers leads the team as well. But hey, we asked him to do so much, we'll let that slide. Even that 2.4 number is still a positive assist to turnover ratio for a big 6'9" bruiser who wasn't really expected to be a guy who could play make early on in his career. But
And we'll
Zuby
we'll
just
let the we'll let the 1 for 7 from the free throw line slide too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, aside from the free throw stumbles yesterday, Zuby continues to impress. I mean, never turns it off, always goes 110%, runs past his own guys going for offensive rebounds. The consummate leader, consummate teammate. It's great to see him have, us get bounced off the map and have some success because it'd be really devastating to have a season, his last season, end in disappointment. And it looks like, with him leading the pack, being the leader that he is, St. John's is going to right the ship in plenty of time and hopefully have some positive momentum the rest of the way and lead into some NCAA tournament success.
We absolutely love our captain, and the absolute favorite thing of mine that he did yesterday was throwing the V's down on his way into the tunnel after the game. So love our Zuby.
Yep. We saw Dave got a nice capture of that. It was a good shot. We saw Soriano do the same thing, captain to captain. And happy to take Nova down there in Philadelphia. Anyway, Cole, thank you very much, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry we couldn't get you on after the Marquette game. We're doing our best over here. For Lamont Hamilton, I'm Pat Kane. That's Cole Atshaw. This has been the Red Storm Rapid Reaction Podcast. Peace.